Centuries ago, the birth of a royal child could determine the fate of an entire kingdom. From their earliest days, royal heirs were molded for power, trained in war, diplomacy, and leadership. But what happened when a royal child was born different? When they struggled to speak, to walk, or to learn like others? To kings and queens, this wasn't just a private sorrow, it was a political crisis. Throughout history, countless royal children born with disabilities were hidden away, locked in institutions, or even declared dead while still very much alive. Their mere existence threatened the illusion of strength and flawlessness that monarchies so desperately depended on. This is the largely forgotten story of royal children born with Down syndrome, a genetic condition that was long misunderstood and feared, and the heartbreaking ways their families concealed them to protect royal image. Down syndrome is caused by an extra chromosome. While most people have 46, individuals with Down syndrome have 47. This additional copy of chromosome 21 alters development, affecting both the body and the brain. People with Down syndrome often share distinctive physical traits: almond-shaped eyes, a flatter facial profile, smaller ears, and a single crease across the palm. They may also face medical challenges, such as heart conditions, thyroid issues, and developmental delays. Today, we understand that people with Down syndrome can lead full, enriching lives. But in centuries past, long before genetics was understood, such differences were met with fear, superstition, and shame. To many, they were seen as curses, signs of divine punishment, or proof of impure bloodlines. And in royal families, where heirs were expected to embody perfection, a child with Down syndrome was often treated not as a person, but as a secret to be buried. Nerissa Boslian was born in 1919, followed by her younger sister Catherine in 1926. They were first cousins of Queen Elizabeth II, part of the British royal family by blood, but not by public recognition. From early childhood, it became evident that both girls had profound intellectual disabilities. It is believed that one or both may have had Down syndrome or a related developmental condition. But instead of being raised within the royal household, they were quietly placed in the Royal Oldswood Hospital in Surrey, a long-term institution for people with developmental disabilities. Once institutionalized, Nerissa and Catherine were all but erased from public life. In an astonishing move, official family records even listed them as deceased, despite the fact that they were very much alive, living behind the hospital's walls. Nerissa remained at Oldswood until her death in 1986. Catherine lived there for nearly her entire life, passing away in 2014. Throughout those decades, they reportedly received only rare visits from family, if any at all. For much of their lives, no one outside the hospital knew who they truly were. Their existence came to light in the 1980s, when investigative journalists uncovered the truth, igniting public outrage. Many were horrified that members of the royal family had been hidden so deliberately, cast aside in silence, their lives erased to preserve the image of royal perfection. This tragic case reveals that even in the modern 20th century, royal families still chose secrecy over support. The fear of scandal, it seems, still outweighed compassion. Princess Alexandrine of Prussia was born in 1915, the daughter of Crown Prince Wilhelm of Prussia. She was diagnosed with what we now know as Down syndrome, though the term was not commonly used at the time. Unlike the tragic stories of Nerissa and Catherine Boslian, Alexandrine's life took a somewhat different path. Her parents chose not to institutionalize her. She remained at home with her family and, on rare occasions, appeared in public. She was even featured in a few family portraits and commemorative postcards. But this visibility did not equate to acceptance. Alexandrine was excluded from royal duties and kept away from the spotlight as much as possible. She attended a special school and lived quietly within the family, shielded from the public responsibilities that typically accompanied royal life. Despite the restrictions placed on her, Alexandrine lived a relatively comfortable and stable life. She reached adulthood and passed away in 1980. Still, her story reveals a familiar truth. While children with disabilities could be cared for and loved behind palace walls, they were not meant to be part of the monarchy's public face. Love existed, but it was private. Acceptance, on the other hand, remained out of sight. And de Gaulle was born in 1928, the daughter of Charles de Gaulle, who would later become the president of France, and his wife, Yvonne. Though not a member of a royal family, and belonged to one of the most influential households in Europe. She was born with Down syndrome at a time when children with disabilities were often hidden away in institutions. But Anne's story stood apart. Rather than sending her to an institution, her parents chose to raise her at home. She was deeply loved, especially by her father, who shared a strong, affectionate bond with her. Those close to the family spoke of the tenderness with which Charles de Gaulle cared for Anne. Still, despite their devotion, Anne was kept largely out of the public eye. Her condition was not widely acknowledged, and she was rarely seen at official functions. In many ways, the family shielded her from the harsh scrutiny of public life. Tragically, Anne passed away at just 20 years old from pneumonia. Her death devastated the family. In her memory, Yvonne de Gaulle founded the Foundation and de Gaulle, a hospital dedicated to the care of children with disabilities. Anne's life is a rare example of love and inclusion during a time when such compassion was far from common. But even her story reflects the immense social pressure to keep disability hidden, a reminder of how far society had yet to go. The well-documented cases of the 20th century likely represent only a fraction of the royal children born with Down syndrome or other disabilities throughout history. In earlier centuries, the treatment was often far more severe. Children born with visible differences or intellectual disabilities were frequently hidden away, abandoned, sent to remote estates, or placed in monasteries to live in obscurity. In royal circles, where image was everything, an imperfect child was seen as a threat to the throne and the divine aura of the monarchy. Some historians even believe that infants with severe disabilities were quietly killed at birth, though hard evidence is rare due to the culture of secrecy that surrounded such acts. This wasn't limited to one royal house, it was widespread. Monarchies across Europe depended not only on power, but also on the illusion of perfection. Admitting that a royal bloodline had produced a disabled child was unthinkable. As a result, countless children were denied love, visibility, and dignity, simply because they didn't fit the ideal. Today, the world has changed. People with Down syndrome have access to education, healthcare, and opportunities. They go to school, pursue careers, build relationships, and thrive in public life. They are seen, valued, and loved. But this progress is painfully recent. Only a few generations ago, things were tragically different. The lives of Nerissa and Catherine Bös-Lyon, Princess Alexandrine of Prussia, and Anne de Gaulle are powerful reminders of how children, despite being born into privilege, were hidden, excluded, and treated as secrets. They received fewer smiles, fewer chances, and often lived behind locked doors, not because of their disabilities, but because of society's fear and shame. Their names were erased from official records, their presence removed from photographs and events. Many were left to live and die in silence. Cold institutions replaced homes. Isolation took the place of acceptance. Yet, just because history tried to forget them doesn't mean we should. These lives mattered. Their stories matter. History is full of kings and queens, but some of its most painful truths are found in those who were deliberately forgotten. Remembering them now gives them the dignity they were once denied. It also reminds us that progress is fragile. Discrimination still exists. And when image is placed above humanity, compassion is often the first casualty. These children's stories are more than tragic footnotes in royal history. They are powerful lessons. They show us that no family, however powerful, is immune to shame and secrecy. And they challenge us to build a world where every child, regardless of ability, is seen, valued, and celebrated. By telling their stories, we bring them out of the shadows. And we take one more step toward a future where no child is ever treated as a secret again.